Hello, and welcome to the Blackbird Writers Author Interviews. Today we're going to be speaking with Sheila Lowe. Sheila is a real-life forensics handwriting expert and Amazon #1 best-selling author. Her forensics handwriting psychological suspense books featuring Claudia Rose mirrors Sheila's own career. Sheila has a new paranormal suspense series called Beyond the Veil. She also writes nonfiction books on handwriting psychology. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you so much.
So I'd like to start today by asking about your Claudia Rose series. Claudia, like you, is a forensics handwriting specialist. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in that field?
Oh, you have to go back a very long time for that, 50 some years. In 1967, I was in high school and my boyfriend's mother had read a book about handwriting analysis and she analyzed mine. And so I was just blown away by all the things that she said about me. I was like, oh, somebody really knows me. So I started reading and just, everything I could get my hands on, and it made me popular at parties because I was a shy teenager. And after 10 years of studying on my own, I began to study formally. So I've been doing it for a very long time.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, there was something in the book about that there's not a like universal federal or state process for becoming an expert. So how how do you go about actually becoming a specialist then?
Well, there's two areas that I work in, just like my character, Claudia Rose. And one of them is behavioral profiling, which I did for the first 20 years exclusively. And then I branched out into document examination. And there's still no national certification or federal or state or licensing, I should say. But there are organizations that certify. And so if you get a reputable organization and get certified, that's a good thing. And that adds up when you go to court and they look at your background. But there is no licensing. So unfortunately, some really bad people out there can do damage.
Yeah, that's just seems like it's a big gap, that somebody should address at some point. In the second book of the series, Written in Blood, Claudia starts out the book by having to testify to validate somebody's
signature will.
Yeah. So
yes.
is that, I mean, Claudia finds the entire experience completely nerve-wracking. Is it that nerve-wracking in real life?
Well, when you think of it this way, the opposing attorney's job is to make you look stupid, and it's your job not to help. so it can be daunting, and especially like in Written in Blood, Claudia is opposing somebody in the field who just lies about his background, and that has happened to me on more than one occasion. So, yeah.
I was so indignant on Claudia's behalf and by extension your behalf when I was reading that scene. I was like, but that's not fair. Yeah. So
yeah, but you get to kill your enemies in the book.
Yeah, be careful or I'll write you into a story.
That's right.
All right. So you and I had talked before, and you had mentioned that the young girl in Written in Blood, Annabelle, was based on your daughter. And did the process help the character to become more real?
I didn't
actually base her on
deliberately.
your daughter.
Yeah, it wasn't a deliberate thing. It was probably a subconscious thing, um, that I wanted to write a kid that was like my daughter, who was a really, really difficult child. And today is the 21st anniversary of her death in a murder-suicide. And, she was very smart, but she had a closed head injury when she was a baby. She fell out of her crib. And I never knew how that happened, but there was nothing they could do about that. And so she grew up sort of unable to really learn from her mistakes. And the man who killed her, her boyfriend, was a federal agent. So she thought he would protect her. But it ended up very, very badly. And I had analyzed his handwriting before he asked me to. And I discussed with them both the danger signs that I saw there.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene in Written in Blood where the
And
girl Annabelle,
Annabelle.
yeah, once a handwriting analyzed, and Claudia warns her against him, and yeah, it's amazing how much you can get out of just a handwriting
Mhm.
sample.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you don't listen, then it is, and I did the same thing. I met the man that I married, my second husband, and I remember looking and telling him, he asked me about his handwriting, and I said, "You're the kind of person that rushes into something emotional, and then when it comes time to putting your money where your mouth is, you're gone." And even though we got married, we spent 20 years breaking up. Him breaking up and coming back. Yeah, so you have to listen if it's gonna do any good.
I think that's true in so many parts of life.
I think
Like,
so.
here's a big warning sign.
Yes, read the road
No.
signs. Exactly.
All right. So you have just made a major decision to
Yes.
independently publish Dead Letters, which is the eighth book in the Claudia Rose series. Um, can you tell us about that decision, why you went in that path, and what you hope will happen?
Sure, and I like to say I jumped off a cliff, and the free fall is thrilling. So, yeah, my first book was, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Handwriting Analysis, published by Macmillan, huge publishing company. And then after that, another nonfiction, Handwriting of the Famous and Infamous. And then I started, what I really wanted to do was writing my Claudia Rose series. I didn't know it was going to be a series, but I wrote Poison Pen. And then I thought I would get a big publisher, and I didn't. But it got published by a small house, and then it got a starred review in Publishers Weekly, which led to a deal with Penguin for my first 4 books in the series. So I had small house, big house, and then my editor left, and I was orphaned, and then I ended up with a small house again, and they've been just wonderful. I love them, suspense, but I feel that at this point in my life, I need to do something more. I want to get my books into the libraries and have a wider distribution than they do. And so I decided to ask for my rights back. And I was sad, but it's an exciting thing. So I'm hoping this will help, to get the name out there more.
And is your paranormal series independently published, or is that with a small house as well?
It's been all of my books, all of my fiction books have been with Suspense since I think about 2013. But I've taken them all back. So I'm in the process right now of getting ready to reissue them. They all have beautiful new covers. The one behind me is Poison Pen, and that's coming out on Monday. It's up there. I think they're all up for pre-order now. We're going to be re-releasing all of the titles, and they're actually a little bit new because I have re-edited, and especially Poison Pen. It was my first fiction book, and I found I write much better now. So I applied what I knew and rewrote it, and that's coming out on I think it's Tuesday, the 24th. And
Great.
then after every couple weeks after that, we'll be releasing them until the new one, Dead Letters, will be coming out in the beginning of August.
That's really exciting, something to look forward to every
Yes.
couple of weeks. Because I know I gobbled up the first one that I read.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, I know how long it takes to write a novel, and when I read them, I'm like, where is the next one? Why do you only have 8?
Yes, I know. It usually takes me about a year to write one because I don't just work on that. I have, my document examination practice. And everybody said last year that they had a hard time writing because of the pandemic. But I wrote dead letters in, I think, 9 months, which was quite a bit better than usual. So I hope I'm speeding up.
That'd be great, because we'll keep reading. All right, this is kind of a personal question, actually. That my daughter, who's 25, um, she learned a little bit of cursive writing in 2nd grade, and then the school just stopped teaching cursive, and the whole district stopped teaching cursive, and so she just learned how to basically print. Now, when you're analyzing printing, is that a different process than analyzing cursive? Is it less
No,
revealing?
no, because I use the Gestalt method. There's two main methods to handwriting analysis, and in the other one, which is called trait stroke, they don't like to analyze printing, and I don't think they do, unless you really need to learn to, because so many people print now. Gestalt method means I'm looking at the spatial arrangement, the way the writing is laid out on the paper, and the shapes of the letters, and things like rhythm and speed and pressure, and all of those things are the same regardless of how you write. So using the same principles, I can analyze handwriting in any language too. So yeah, you can still tell languages that I don't speak.
But my mind just went, that is so cool.
Yeah, well, you'll be happy to know, although it's too late for your daughter, but maybe grandchildren, that cursive is making a comeback. And now
No,
26 states require some form of cursive, and there's 6 states that have legislation pending, and only 10 states have 0 requirements at all.
Good. Well, I'm glad I'm glad it's coming back. She actually wants to learn, which is how I knew that she didn't know how, because she's like, you know, she was having a hard time reading letters from my mom, because my mom writes all of her letters in cursive, and they like to exchange letters instead of emails, and
Right.
so we've we've started like writing our grocery lists in cursive so she can practice reading it and writing it.
That's
And
cool.
it's just like,
There's a method that I promote that I really like, and it's called Cursive Logic, and that's their website. Yeah, if you might want to take a look at it, because
definitely.
adults or children, it's the same, but it's
All
a good
right,
method.
cursive logic. All right, we'll
Yes.
do that after after our interview.
Okay.
So thank you for that. It's a little segue, but
Sure.
I'm I found Claudia just be so fascinating, and I love in your emails you have cursive on. What is, you have a little tagline in
Um,
your emails?
I do. Keep calm and cursive on.
Keep calm and cursive on, and
Yes.
I just love that.
Yes. Cursive,
Um,
it's important because when you only print, especially if you block print, like in all capital letters, what it does in effect is it breaks the connections literally between you and other people. And even though you might be really friendly and outgoing, there is a level of disconnect emotionally. And it's much harder to get emotionally close to people who print only.
yeah,
It's a generalization.
I'm gonna say I've always hated cursive, and I started to block print because the only D I ever got in school ever was in penmanship.
Oh,
And my mom taught 2nd and 3rd grade for 30 years. So she taught that cursive, her writing is perfect, and mine was so ugly. And so my brother was studying to become an architect, and he wrote in all block, and I was like, that's it, I'm writing that way. Because then nobody will give me a D in
oh.
penmanship.
We'll have to talk about that off screen.
Yeah, yeah, I did not like getting bad grades. But It is funny though. It's like when I write now, it looks exactly the same as when I wrote when I was in middle school. So um, it does stick with you. All right, so we'll stop talking about me because that's not why we're here. Um, so we've talked a lot about handwriting. What I'd like to know is what motivated you to become a writer?
Mm. You know, I think it's just something that was always in me. I used to write poetry when I was a little kid, and then I came from England when I was 14, just when the Beatles came out, and I started writing stories about being married to Ringo.
Awesome.
And just from that, I always wrote. But when I started studying handwriting, I was writing technical papers for a long time. And people kept saying, well, you should write a book. But I didn't want to write the same book that everybody else was writing about handwriting. And then I had the opportunity to write The Complete Idiot's Guide to Handwriting Analysis. But all along, I always wanted to write a mystery because I loved reading mysteries. I used to read a book a day when I was in high school. I don't know. I don't think I ever got any homework done. But yeah, it's just something, you know how it is as a writer. It's just a compulsion. I don't like writing. I like having written.
That's
I
a
like the
perfect
editing
way of
part.
putting it.
It's hard work,
It
as
is,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, perfect way of putting it. It's like, I'm glad that part's done. Um, all right. So tell us about your paranormal series.
Beyond the Veil. Um, that, when I said that my editor at Penguin left and then I moved over, but in between, I had an agent at the time. I've never had an agent sell something for me on their own, but the agent that I had at that time said, no big publisher is going to buy a series in the middle, so you need to write something else. And so I wrote a book called What She Saw, and it has a theme that I've always been fascinated with, and that is amnesia. It has another theme that too, but I can't tell you because that would ruin the story. But it's about a young woman who wakes up on a train and doesn't know who she is, where she's going, where she came from. And so
Terrifying.
it's her story. So a couple of years ago, I've mentioned what happened to my daughter, and that got me started interested in the spirit world and what happens when we die. And I've learned that there is no death. There's life after Earth. And my daughter continues very active in my life today. So I've always thought I would write about that, but it was too painful to write her story.
Yeah.
And I suddenly thought, oh, I could write a mystery about the afterlife. And as I started thinking about it, I realized that the young woman in What She Saw needed to be the main character. And I can't tell you the reason for it, but if you read it, you'll find out. And at that time, I had several psychic readings, and they all told me that independently that my daughter was going to be working with me on the book, on Proof of Life. And then I realized that a character from my last Claudia book, Written Off, needed to be the love interest for this character in Proof of Life. And so I really enjoyed writing that book. And the next book I write is going to be the next one in that series.
All right. That sounds very exciting. So much intrigue in just a short little blurb there. It's like, okay, well, that one's going to move up in in the order of things that I have my stack of books that I need to read, want to read at this point.
Well, let me
That
just
sounds
say that
fascinating.
What She Saw is not really a paranormal book, although I did go back and I'm going to, before we reissue it under my new imprint, I'm going to rewrite it again. And so it might have a little more paranormal in it, but I've called it the prequel to Proof of Life, which is paranormal.
Okay, all right. Yeah, these sound great. Um, let's see. I had just kind of a general. You are a writer. You are doing a lot of handwriting analysis and all of that kind of thing. What do you do when you relax? How do you take a break? Do you take a break?
No,
No.
No, actually, because I live with my cat and she's very tolerant of what I do, I sit here at this computer from 9 o'clock in the morning until about midnight,
Oh, golly.
except for getting up to go to the fridge. That's about, now today I will be going for a walk. On Fridays, I take a walk with a friend and go to lunch, socially distanced with a mask, of course. But yeah, I really don't do anything.
Okay. Well, you get a lot done because, I
I
mean, that's
read.
clear from your body of work. So,
No, I read books. I used to play the piano. I gave it up, but no, I'm really a dud.
I don't get that impression at all.
Thank you. It's my biggest fear in life is being boring.
Um, all right. So, for our last question is actually opening the floor up to you. Is there a question that you wish I had asked, or just something that you'd like to tell everybody?
Um, Maybe for any budding writers, you know, um, I thought in 2000 when I sent my um, first 20 pages of my manuscript for Poison Pen to a competition, and I got third place out of 98 entries in mystery. And that meant getting a meeting with two big time not agents, editors at big publishing houses. I thought, I'm really on my way. But it took another 7 years to get published. And when I did, what I found out was I had too many adverbs, those ly words, and that my character was not strong enough because she was always feeling guilty. And there's nothing wrong with a character arc where the character grows, but readers want basically a strong character. And I found that once I made those corrections, it opened up a whole new world.
Right. That's absolutely fantastic advice. Uh, and I've had so much fun with this interview. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. And we'll go ahead and say goodbye at this point. And I look forward to reading. I'm going to finish Claudia Rose, then I'm going to start on the paranormal series.
Well, thank you so much for the interview and for reading my books.
Thank you.
Thank you.